Tad and I put a blended family together in 1979. He had 3, ages 3 through 9. I had 2, ages 6 and 8. And we put the 5 of them together. It's been 32 years, and it's worked.
You know, so we were sort of like the Brady Bunch coming together. As Cindy often says, though, we never seem to be able to solve our problems in half an hour like they did.
I would generally say my early years of adolescence, before I picked up my first drink and drug, was good. We had a very loving family. But the one thing that was always kind of interesting is I was never satisfied. I was always worried about things. In some level, I always felt like I was an imposter in the life that I was given.
Toby was a very talented skier. And what I realized Toby was getting into trouble was when his skiing fell apart. His results started changing, and then he would no-show. We would go to a ski race, and he wouldn't come out of the lodge.
It became more distant, more remote, harder to reach. He became quite a different young man.
My parents, they started finding things, and they started hearing stories, and they started getting calls from police. I had one incident where I was 15 years old, and I got drunk with a buddy, and we had a very bad car accident, and we rolled a pickup truck about 6 times, and I was thrown from the car. And it was a near-death experience. And the most amazing thing about active addiction is that it didn't stop me. I kept on going.
And he came to a real crux when he was a junior in high school. And that winter was just a very ugly, disastrous time for him. And I started realizing I had a child in trouble. The intervention came literally on the last day of school for him in June, and he wound up spending that whole month of June in treatment.
It was hard, really hard. You know, took him off to treatment, and kind of the rest is history. You know, I think he would say, and you know, I would too. I mean, it was the best thing that ever happened to him.
I believe that families can be sick when there's active addiction, but I also believe when someone sobers up in the family, it can change the whole dynamics of the family. It can generally improve the whole family.
The wonderful part about the family experience for this family was that once we embraced Toby's chemical dependency and his addiction, the whole family rallied. We all went to Family Week. We worked together.
And we got talking. I think the communication improved a lot, and you know, ultimately, a couple years later, I myself went into treatment, and I think the fact that Toby had preceded me was inspirational for me. I mean, watching my own son do what I should have been doing.
Now, I was a kid who was kind of still struggling at the time. However, I was sober and I was going to meetings. So I don't know what kind of example I was, but I felt like at least I had some sort of happiness in my life at that point. My void that I had always never was able to fill had immediately been filled.
You know, and that was almost 20 years ago now for me. And it was a life-changing event for me, just like it was for Toby.
I went on the Hazelden board in 2004. When they came and asked me, I was absolutely honored. And I was really drawn to youth services.
Youth in recovery need supportive programs that help enable them in not only their first day of recovery, but also their, at 5 years of recovery. Hazelden's been very good at creating the continuum of care and trying to offer programs for that. You know,
we live in the land of 10,000 treatment centers, Hazelden being kind of the trailblazer, and so of course for them to take a huge lead on the treatment of youth and their families together is really important.
I've just recently celebrated 22 years in recovery. I've been married for 14 years. I have 3 wonderful children. At one point, my parents, I was a disappointment to them. Now, I'm an active member of my family.
He's incredibly active in the recovery community. You know, I get around the community pretty well myself, and I think, you know, I used to be that guy from Piper Jaffray. Now I'm Toby's dad.
With all the gifts I've been given, I realized that the biggest gift of all, I got a son back, and I got a husband back too.